The Space Station Gaming Global Invitational is literally next weekend. We got a lot to talk about. What's up, guys? This is Why Not Be Reckless, aka Why Not Be Casting. I'm one of the HCS commentators, and we have another HCS Weekly Report where today we're going to be talking about all the teams that have qualified to go into Salt Lake City to compete in that global invitational. You have the top 8 from the Optic Arlington Major already securing their spots. So why don't we talk about each and every one of them, starting with FaZe, Frosty, Renegade, Royal 2, and Snakebite. This team looking to go back to back to back as far as land champions. Not many teams can say they have done that, but FaZe have been looking really good. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If FaZe look anything like we saw in that grand finals during the Optic Major, I'm not sure any team can beat them, but only time will tell. Next up, we got to talk about Space Station Gaming. So far, haven't actually found the wins this year, but maybe it'll be at their home event during the SSG Global Invitational where Space Station Gaming get their first one. I know they can get one this year. The problem is they're running out of time. Bound, Eco, Stellar, and Penguin, they need to step it up. And wouldn't it be crazy if their first win of the year would be during their home event? That's something FaZe nor Optic have been able to do. Next up, we got to talk about Quadrant. Legend, Chick, SLG, and Sika make up this Quadrant roster, not only making history as far as getting into the top 4, which so far no team outside of North America has been able to do, but on top of that, making it even out of reach with a 3rd place finish after their big win against Sentinels. Quadrant were absolutely out of control going into the Optic Major, but my question for them is, can they keep that same energy? Next up, we gotta talk about Sentinels. Sentinels were an interesting team going into the Optic Major. Very little practice, fairly new team, and ultimately made up of Boo Boo, Dubu, Falcated, Lethal, and Spartan, who found themselves in the top 12 during the DreamHack Dallas Invitational, which I'm pretty sure we all could agree is a huge underperformance for Sentinels. Next thing you know, going to Major with that new look. Again, little practice and a lot of expectations on them, and they answered the call. Top 4 is nothing to hang your heads low about whatsoever, especially with a newly acquired squad like Sentinels are. And now the question is, could they build off of that? Like, as far as Sentinels, I'm not going to be hard. I'm not going to sit there and say they got to get top 4 or bust, but the last thing we want to do is see Sentinels fall into the top 12 again. So still, the lights are bright, and they're still on Sentinels. And of course, speaking of bright lights, you got to talk about Optic Gaming, APG, Formal, Lucid, and Trippy. At one point in time, we're looking like a dynastic roster after what they did at Orlando and Worlds, and even how they were able to continue that early this year. Since then, 2 top 6 finishes during the major online tournaments that led into DreamHack Dallas, then a top 6 finish at DreamHack Dallas, and again during their own major, has brought up questions around this Optic Gaming roster. And to be honest with you, I think Optic Gaming need a huge bounce back. I think they need it now. Otherwise, maybe there's going to be some tough conversations to be had. But before we get anywhere there, like I said, Optic Gaming do have the ability to turn it around and turn it around quickly. Hopefully, they can do that next week. And next up, we got to talk about Cloud9, Nemesis, Rami, Triton, and the newly acquired Septify for this roster. I was huge on the Cloud9 bandwagon. I kept telling people how much of an X factor both Nemesis and Rami are, especially Nemesis with his pop-off potential and Rami with his consistency in the Slayers. And then when you have Septify, who is a slaying machine, joined by Triton, who has that real deal type of shot, centered reticle, fundamental shooting. I was a big on this Cloud9 roster, especially early on in the year. Not gonna lie to you, after some of the results that we actually saw from them, especially during some of the online tournaments, I fell off the bandwagon a little bit. And of course, the moment I do, the moment they make me pay for it, Cloud9 made a run all the way from the open bracket into championship bracket, and even made it into the top 6, securing their spot here in the SSG Global Invitational. I think Cloud9 were excellent. Honestly, they really were. Was it a fluke? I think that's what we're asking ourselves right now. Can Cloud9 replicate that same success? Can they make it out of pool play, ultimately into bracket play, and get another top 8, top 6 finish? We don't want to see Cloud9 bounce out of pool play. We definitely want to see them make a run, and we look at those pool plays. We're going to see how tough of a road they're going to have. But next up, another team that made it out of open bracket. Gotta talk about Complexity. Yoki, Carmea, King, Nick, and Tusk making up that Complexity roster. Another team out of open bracket did the damn thing, made it to championship bracket, and even made it out with a smile on their face, coming in and getting top 8, during that optic major. I think Complexity have played phenomenal. I think especially coming off of a off season where you had your 2 young stars and Collect and Cycle poached from your roster and ultimately brought into other ones, for them to be able to rebound and regain, come up with the new roster and find success the way they were able to, I think was excellent for Complexity. And again, another team that you want to see build off of that success. And now you have Native Gaming Red rounding out your top 8 with this roster of Manny, Soul Snipe, Taulik, and Suppressed coming in as that final member of the team. We did see Bohm filling in, which Bohm had a wonderful stint, especially at DreamHack Dallas, where they were able to replicate a top 4 finish. Obviously, didn't see the exact same success at the Arlington Major, but now they're coming in with Suppressed, who's probably going to be a permanent member of the crew, comes in with that same type of mentality of entry frag player, does a ton of damage, very in your face, which is really what they want, and then also comes from that same kind of family, that same kind of friend group that Native Red are really known for. I think Suppress fills out this roster really well, and I'm excited to see what they do. I don't want to see Native Gaming in 8th place. I want to see them top 6, and maybe, dare I say, back into top 4, because it wasn't too long ago where they were consistently getting top 4 every single event, online, on land. It didn't matter. Native Gaming were I would say consistently the 4th best team in the league, and I'm excited to see them get back to that. So next up, we got to talk about who's going to be joining these top 8 squads. Like we already know, the top 8 ultimately from Arlington made it into pool play automatically for the SSG Global Invitational, but then from there we had a couple of tournaments to find out who's going to be joining them. We had the pre-qualifier for the SSG Global Invitational, then we had the qualifier, which literally happened just last weekend, where the top 2 teams guaranteed a spot ultimately in pool play, and then from there we saw the next 2 teams based on points join in pool play. So there was a very good chance we would have saw 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place ultimately making it into the Global Invitational, but it wasn't guaranteed for the 3rd and 4th place teams, only for 1st and 2nd. So to kind of speed run through what happened through the pre-qualifier, we saw Pisons and EXO up in the upper bracket end up going all the way to a Game 5. Complexion, Claytron, Blaze, and Straight Sick going up against Employee, Camp, Fantasy, and Mop 2 Clutch, going to a Game 5, and then ultimately qualifying for the qualifier did Pisons through the winners bracket. It was really a good event for them. And on the opposite side, you also had Please Don't Go Rogue and Let Them Cook. Let Them Cook, Glitchy, Simply Fearby, Ice Kid, and Azrael going up against Cortex, Bullseye, Shock, and Dakota NY. They ultimately were taken to a Game 5 by Let Them Cook. Please Don't Go Rogue made it to the qualifier for the Global Invitational, but I believe they had to forfeit. I want to say it was Cortex that was in the middle of moving and was planning on going to a LAN center if he had the opportunity to compete, but apparently things didn't work out exactly the way they wanted to. So they qualified through the upper bracket, but sadly weren't able to actually to make a run and try to qualify for that Global Invitational. And then from there went down to the lower bracket. In the lower bracket, we once again saw Let Them Cook going up against a new roster in Revenge, Kruvu, realized Eli Lee and Krillsy, and with a 3-1 finish, let them cook. Automatically made it to that qualifier. And then another name in EXO, both of the teams that made it deep in the winners bracket was ultimately sent down. Both made it out because EXO taking down TNL despite full clutches, Big Teaches, and Groovy coming back. But a 3-0 sweep for EXO brought them into the qualifier. And once we got to that qualifier, we ultimately had a pool play on that Saturday, finished it up on Sunday, where we saw teams like Native White come in and look great. Boom tapping Buns McWin and Collect. By the way, Boom coming in and filling in for that spot for Barcode left behind after Native were forced to drop him due to visa issues. Went up against Carpe Noctem, Cherished, King J, Diagram, and Piggy. Native White sending Carpe Noctem down to the elimination bracket on the way to the winners bracket finals, where G1, who by the way were playing phenomenal Halo literally all week long. I'm not gonna lie, I had my eyes on Shopify Rebellion possibly winning this event, but it was G1 that ultimately beat Shopify Rebellion Cycle, Mental Rain, and Ryan Noob, securing a spot in the winners bracket finals for Huss, Swish, Precision, and Suspector. And in that winners bracket finals, G1 3-1 Native White and automatically made it into the grand finals, where we had the final join them. Shopify Rebellion getting 3-1 by Carpe Noctem. I think that was an upset. Even though I've said it once, I'll say it twice. Carpe Noctem have played better and better every single time we see them. I'm not gonna lie to you, I've constantly liked this team, but I wasn't in love with them. But seeing how they've been able to grind as far as practice, and they've been grinding hard, and then ultimately seeing that translate into tournament play as well, they've been getting better and better. I don't think any of us can deny it. Carpe Noctem, if they continue to play like this, they'll no longer be an open bracket team. We may just start seeing them consistently in pool play and maybe consistently in championship bracket. Carpe Noctem 3-1 over Shopify Rebellion. And then in a turn of events and a little bit of a surprise, we saw Native White ultimately forfeit this elimination bracket finals. They were guaranteed to ultimately make it into the SSG Global Invitational no matter what happened. At that point, McWin was recently saying that he was diagnosed with some kind of hand issue that he's been trying to rest up and recover for, and ultimately they wanted to get as much rest as possible. That included forfeiting here in the elimination bracket finals, making it so that Carpe Noctem made it into the grand finals and then got swept by G1 in those grand finals, where G1 ultimately winning the qualifier, but we still see the top four going into pool play. And to give you guys a little bit of visual representation, G1, Carpe Noctem won in first and second seed. Native White did make it to the elimination bracket finals as the third place team, so they could win into Pool C, and Shopify Rebellion making it as the fourth place team, so you see them in Pool D. There was also qualifiers in ANZ, Europe, and Latin America, so you see Mindfreak representing the ANZ region. No Orc coming out with the upset over in the Mexican region. Last Dance and Navi going to be representing EU alongside Quadrant. And ultimately, these are your four pools in pool play on August 4th. And man, is it going to be a good one. You probably see in the next couple of days we'll be coming out with a pool play prediction and a bracket prediction video. That's going to be a little bit separate from this one, but now you guys know every single team that's making it into the SSG SLC Global Invitational. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below who you're rooting for. I want to know who you think is going to win, and then who you think is going to be a dark horse team. Who do you have your eyes out that maybe nobody else is? And yeah, I'll see you guys soon.